Hey Flosstube! My name is Lynn and this is my channel Those Missing Stitches. Today is Saturday, June 1st, 2024, and this is my Flosstube number 18. Hello and welcome to my channel. Thank you for returning for those of you that have watched me before, and welcome if you're new. This is my channel where I talk all about cross stitch projects and a little bit about reading at the end. Today, I'm going to give you my May update for all my May statistics. I did participate in Mania and did go with my plan of doing a new start for every new week of May. So I do have 5 new starts to show. And then I have some whips. I have plans for what I plan to do in June. And then at the very end of the video, I'll talk about books. But I will give you a chance to sign off if that's not really something you're interested in. So I'll take a little break in between. So let's get started. So for May, I typically like to start with my statistics. And in May, I did work on 12 projects. I did a total of 24,776 stitches. I had 5 new starts and I did meet all my May goals. So that's exciting. I think I haven't met all of my goals in a couple of months. So let's just get to it. I'm going to start with my whips. Let me switch my screen here. I'm going to start with my new start. So my plan for May was to do a new week, new start. It's something I did last year and I plan to do it again. So basically on May 1st, I have a new start, and then every Monday after that, I have another new start. So I did have 5 new starts. I had an original plan of the patterns I thought I was going to start, and I did deviate from the plan a little bit because there was a couple of new releases I really wanted to start. So there may be some surprises in here. So the first one I'll show you, the first one I started on May 1st was Black Vintage Sampler. This is a pattern by Owl Forest Embroidery. I'm stitching this one on 18 count Aida that is just a random piece I dyed myself. And I'm stitching it 2/1 full cross in Silks for You PR070, which is their black. I did a total of 2,356 stitches, which is actually 10%, so that's pretty good. And here's how far I got. I'm almost all the way over. Actually, this is all the way to the other edge. So I know this is the full width of it, and then it goes pretty far down. So this one's actually really fun to work on. I like um, some of the patterns that are in here and some of the repetitiveness of working on it. But then there's also some of this uniqueness in the middle in some of these pictures. Let me do a close up. This is how far I got. Love this. Okay, so that one I think is going in my regular rotation. My next new start was to participate in Manning May Sal, which is a stitch along that is hosted by Marjorie Maid, Seattle Stitcher, Bridget the Museum Stitcher, and then Kansas the Stitcher. During May, Stitch on Something, Carolyn Manning. So I did have a new start. I was kind of between a couple patterns, and she'd released, Carolyn Manning had released this whole new bouquet collection in May that I love all of them. But Morning Blooms was one that stuck out to me, one that I really wanted to start. So I did. That was the first Monday I started it on an 18 count piece of Aida that I dyed myself as well. 2/1 full cross on the called for with the called for DMC. I did a total of 2,881 stitches, and I'm actually at 25.62%, so I'm pretty far, and I absolutely love this one. Catherine from Stitching and Costume actually asked me at our last stitching group meetup, do I find it kind of meditative and relaxing to stitch on it? And sometimes I do when you're getting into these repetitive patterns. I said I'm getting a little more on the outside, so it's getting a little harder to like spread out some of the colors and get around. So I may switch to more blocks and kind of finishing a section, but we'll see. I'm loving that I'm seeing it finished and kind of growing as I stitch around, so I may continue this way. So this is Morning Blooms. Absolutely love it. And this is an 11 by 11 Q snap. So I think the full size of the pattern is maybe 9 by 9 on 18 count, maybe a little bigger. So I believe I can stitch it in this whole area and not have to move the Q snap, but we'll see. The next one was a surprise. It was not one that I had planned, but I knew I'm a fan of Amy Stewart and I follow her on Instagram. And when she came out with this puzzle, I knew as soon as it came out as a cross stitch that I was going to buy it and stitch it. It is called The Library of Dogs, and it was released by Heaven and Earth Designs, um, maybe around May 10th or so. And I think I started it that following Monday. and just put it in as one of my new starts because I absolutely love this. I am stitching, I love books, I love dogs, I love stitching, so this combines all of them. I'm stitching this on 28 count Easy Guide Lugana on in 2/1 full cross. I decided, no, sorry, 2/1 10 stitch. I decided to do uh, the the biggest color or the highest color count in it is black, so I decided to do the black extreme cross country to get the whole piece covered in the black, so I have a frame of reference if I want to work on a particular section. So I really want to get into a couple of the section, like down in the bottom corner, there's like a pink house, and then another area, there's another house, and I kind of want to get into these different sections, but I needed a frame of reference to get there. So I did get quite a lot of progress. I stitched 4,315 stitches, even though it's only 1%. Just looking at how far I got across, you can see I did a pretty good amount. So yes, this is 28 count and it is still very huge. There is a supersized max color version of this that came out, and I just don't think I could do max color on anything again, but I think it would be worth it if it's something that you like to do max colors. Um, Here, let me see if I can see to get this closer. Can't get much closer without cutting it off. But I'm almost all the way across. And then I just plan to work down from there to get the rest of the black in so I can start filling in some of the colors. So that is the Library of Dogs. Okay, next was another impromptu one as well. I had planned to start a Witchy Stitcher stitch for one of my weeks of new starts, and I had originally wanted to do the Halloween vintage Halloween fair, and I am a part of the Witchy Stitchers Patreon group, and she came out with a pattern on her Patreon group that's called "Leave Me Alone, I'm Cross Stitching," and I absolutely loved it. I did end up deciding to do a color conversion, so I will show you. I switched my colors to like this pink. These are all silks for you. December. These pinks are December silks of the month, and then this one kind of tanny color was a November silk of the month. So these are my color conversions from the yellow to this pink, and I did start it on 20 count Vigilant VN, which is a 20 count Ada Vigilant VN, which is a color in my shop. And I did get pretty far. I stitched 2,735 stitches. It's not Pattern Keeper compatible, so I'm not sure what the percentage is, but I'm pretty far. And here's how far I got. This one's pretty snarky and pretty Halloween themed and dark and with the bats and everything, and it's so my style. It's so fun. So I got a lot of compliments on it at the last Stitchy group that everybody just kind of chuckled when they saw the message. I think it's perfect. So here is the close up. You can see the colors kind of blending in with the different pink silk conversion. Here's the pink up against it. I still haven't done this darkest color outline, some of that. This darkest pink. I think that'll look really cool. Okay, that's Leave Me Alone. I'm cross stitching. Theme of my life. Okay, then my final new start was one I just started last Monday, so I only worked on it for one day, and it was one that I had planned on and had in my list of possibilities. This is Welcome Halloween by the Drawn Thread, and I did start it on 18 count vintage country mocha, which is what I had planned, and I'm using the called for threads. And this is how far I got. I did 237 stitches on this, so not very far, but it's looking good. So, and it's a smaller one, so I think I'll still be able to finish it by Halloween. Okay, so that was it for my new starts. Now we'll move on to stuff related to goals. So for WIPGO, the calls that I had for this month, the first one was the Grand Library. This is a chart by Amy, also by Amy Stewart and charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. I'm doing the regular size max color version of this chart. That's why I didn't think I could handle another max color chart with the Library of Dogs. Hopefully I don't regret that decision. But I am stitching this one on, I had two goals. So WIP goal, my goal is 500 stitches. And then I have a monthly goal because I want to try to get to 55% on this by the end of this year. And I think that monthly goal is like 3,600 stitches ish. Um, I met both goals, not combined. It would have been like over 4,000 if I had tried to combine them. I was pretty close. I did 3,943 stitches. Here's where I was the last time I showed this. I have moved to like a middle section to uh, try to do some faster stitching and some color completion without all of the individual confetti stitches, which are driving me crazy. And here's where I'm at. Oh. So this is, here's like a waterfall for the western section, or it might be history. And then here's the spine of the book that goes into the middle section with the fireplace and like the little ribbon that runs down the inside of the spine of the book. In total, I am now at 197,964 stitches for 49.15%. So I am on my way to the 55%. So close to 50%. It's exciting. I know it's still going to take me several years to finish it, but I am really enjoying seeing the progress on this and excited to get past that halfway point. It's so close. Okay, that's the Grand Library, my big monster piece, or one of. Next, the other Whip Go goal was No Time Like the Present by Modern Folk Embroidery. This is their 2024 stitch along. Definitely not keeping up with whatever the monthly schedule is for the stitch along. I'm just kind of stitching when I can. I did have a goal of getting 500 stitches on it. Here's where I was the last time I showed this. I am stitching this one on 18 count silvery moon or 18 count silvery moon Ada, 2/1 full cross, and I'm using two Roxy Floss Co colors. And then here's how far I got. I did get 527 stitches on it for an additional 1.48%. Right now I'm at 6,537 stitches for 18.36 in total, which is all over on this side, the first couple pages. So that's how far I got. Really just adding in kind of this section, this leaf, and then over to here, which is crazy. That's 527 stitches, just this little section. So making some progress on that, however slow. And then we just get into my monthly goals. So I do have certain goals for every month that I want to try to finish things by a certain point within the year or by a certain month. So I've set a actual stitch count goal to meet those. The first one on that is 324. This is a chart by Works by ABC, and it's for the 324 Sal that's hosted by Abby at Top Knot Stitcher. I am stitching this one on 25 count silvery moon Lugana, 1/1 full cross. And my goal is to do an average of a square a day so that I can get it done in a year. Here's where I was the last time I showed it. I'm definitely ahead of the average. I'm stitching probably 40 or so a month. Still have a few to finish in this first few rows, but I do have all the colors to do them now. I did an additional 1,439 stitches during May for 9.76%, and in total, which you'll see the whole thing, I'm at 4,625 stitches for 31.35%. So that is 324. It is gorgeous. I just love how all these colors are coming together and how bright and pretty it is. And it's so nice to work on something with this variety of colors without it all being confetti stitches like it is with some of the Amy Stewarts. Really enjoy this one. And I'm definitely on target for finishing it by the end of the year. So I'm super excited. So that's 324. Next, I have a monthly goal for Saga. This is my Long Dog samplers that I started for, oh my gosh, what is it called? Long Dog Leap Year Sal. You started on Leap or Long Dog Leap Day Sal. It could be either. Started on Leap Day this year, February 29th, and the goal is to finish it by Leap Day, the next Leap Day in 2028. So in 4 years, in order to do that, I think I have to stitch about 2160 stitches per month, I think is my goal. Here's where I was the last time I showed this. I'm stitching this on 20 count Lugana on a color called Sensitive Sylvie that is in my shop. Normally it's not in there right now, but it will be coming back. And then here's how far I got. So now let's see, I stitched an additional 2,274 stitches, and in total, this is 8,282 stitches for 7.94%, 7.97%. So there's still quite a lot to go, but I am enjoying this one. It's kind of hard sometimes to choose which one I want to do in which color. I'm using DMC 930 and DMC 931, and sometimes it's a little difficult to figure out which one I want to do in which color. But so far, I think I'm doing pretty good. I'm enjoying it. So that is Saga. Okay, next, this will be my final monthly goal, is Tonight We Ride by Autumn Lane Stitchery. I have a goal of finishing this one by September so I can get it framed and up in my house before Halloween. Here's where I was the last time I showed this. I am stitching this on 18 count Genuine Jillian, which is a color that's in my shop. Not in my shop right now, but I believe it comes back in July, just for the whole quarter. So July, August, September, it should be available. I did do an additional 3,040 stitches, which is beyond my goal, and I'm super, super close to a finish, so I'm excited. Here's where I'm at now. I only have just shy of 1,000 stitches left to go. So I'm kind of debating. I'm all done with the black. I'm all done with this brown color. I think all I have left is filling in all of the silhouettes for this like lighter brown color, kind of rusty color, and then I'll be done. So I'm kind of considering taking this one with me to StitchCon so I can finish and ring the bell. That would be really fun. So tonight we ride. And then the final one, this is not a goal for me, but I started it in January, and then Color and Cotton ran out of the royal blue thread that I was using for it, so I put it on hold. They finally got royal blue back in stock. I'm so excited. Ordered it right away, so I have plenty to finish this pattern. This is Cirque de Caro by Ink Circles. Here's where I was the last time I showed it when I first started it in January and then put it on hold. I'm stitching this one on 18 count Rugged Rochester, which is a color from my shop, and it is in the shop right now. And I added an additional 589 stitches. Here's where I'm at now. So excited to have all the color I need to finish this one. I'm now at 1,685 stitches for 10.15%. So it's really nice and relaxing to stitch on this one. There's a close up. Definitely a little bit. It is very, very subtle variegation, but there definitely is some variegation in there. All monochromatic though. I mean, like up here is like this square is like a little lighter blue, and then it starts to get darker, 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 and then a little lighter in here, darker, 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 and then interspersed in here. That's what I love about color and cotton is it's sometimes really subtle variegation that's just enough to create that little bit of pop. That's it for my May whips. Now let's move on to plans. For June, the whip go calls were number 25, which is Kringles. On my board is Kringles by Little House Needleworks. I have a goal of 500 stitches because I'm stitching this one in full cross. And then the second call was number 2, which on my board is Psychedelic Wonderland 1 by Tilton Crafts. And I have a goal on this one since I'm stitching a 10 stitch of 1,000 stitches. And they're my normal monthly goals that I'll still continue with. And the only other plan I had was I am headed to StitchCon. I am going to weekend A, so I'll be headed out in a couple of days. And I'm super excited. I've never been to a multi-day cross stitch retreat. I'm headed away from home. I'm headed out of town. Um, just a nice vacation, and I'm super excited to be there. I have a lot of stuff I'm bringing with me for giveaways, a lot of stuff I've made, and I'm super excited to share. And then I also plan to have a new start. So I'm bringing New Start with me. I am bringing Strawberry Fields Forever by Blackbird Designs. This is part of um, participating in Strawberry Moon Sal, which is being hosted by Marjorie Maid. It's June is the month of the Strawberry Moon, so her Sal consists of stitch on anything that has strawberries on it, and there is a little icon or a little background that she had designed for a graphic that you can go grab off her Instagram, and I'll link that down below if you're interested in participating. You can put your projects on this graphic and know that you're participating as part of the Sal. So that is one I plan to start while I'm at StitchCon. Other than that, I don't really have any major plans. I have a pretty hefty list of monthly goals and all my new starts and with Go. So I'm really trying to kind of take it easy and not overwhelm myself with too much. Um, but we'll see. I'm trying to go with the flow and maybe change my mind. So that's the end of my cross stitch section and everything I had related to cross stitch. Next, I'm going to talk about books. So if you're interested in signing off and don't want to hear about the books, thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. If you are sticking around, let's talk books. So I did finish 7 books in May. They're kind of all over the gamut of what their different genres are. So let's get started. So the first one I finished was Off the Deep End by Lucinda Berry. This one starts off just very intense. It starts off with you can tell a woman is plunged into this freezing water and is stuck in her car and she can't see anything as it's sinking and she's trying to get out. She's trying to find her son to help get him out, and she feels a hand and grabs it and pulls him out. And when she gets to the top and the surface and pulls the kid out, she realizes it's not her son, it's her son's teammate that she was driving home. And she goes back and tries to find her son and can't. So, very tragic, even first chapter of the book, losing your kid, her teenage kid. Um, it This whole story is really all about the grief and essentially psychosis brought on to both her and the boy that she saved for the trauma that they went through and the loss of the other boy and how it shapes their lives. One perspective is the mom who was in the accident, and then the other perspective is the mom of the boy who was saved. And their different emotional turmoil and the things in trying to save themselves and their families, and um, the mom of the boy that was saved helping her son get through this, but ultimately the tragedy of it and the damage it caused to the boy is something that's in both of them is really more long term, that it creates even more tragedy. So incredibly sad, um, and again tragic. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. It is it gets even worse. So there's even more tragedy after that, unfortunately. And I did like Lucinda Berry. I think I would read more of her writing based off of reading this one. But it is very sad and dark. The next one I read was When We Let Go by Rochelle B. Weinstein. It starts with a proposal gone wrong and hurt feelings over the lead female character. Her name is Avery. Her inability and kind of panic when she gets asked, her inability to answer. Um, it's not related to her current relationship. She has some past trauma that she hasn't even shared with her partner yet, even though they've been together for 2 years. And she hasn't quite shared it with him yet, but she's not ready to. And ultimately, it causes some problems in the relationship. The fact that she didn't answer either way. And then she ends up with a family emergency, and it kind of gives her the excuse to take a break and go home and get away from this guy. But ultimately, it's about her going home and building uh, relationship building with her family, relationship rebuilding, and attempting to heal and move on from those horrible tragedies that she hasn't shared yet on both sides, not just her, but the partner who is a widower with 3 children and hasn't completely moved on from the loss of his wife either. I really enjoyed the relationship between Avery and her sister, and then Avery and the daughter of her partner, who's a teenager, very rebellious, like bitter teenager who hasn't completely healed from the loss of her mom either, and is really resistant to her dad moving on as well in that relationship. So, really good relationship building, really good female characters, some sad backstories, but it's all about them helping each other through their love for each other and through their strength. So this was a good one. I would recommend this one. The next one I read was First Lie Wins. This is by Ashley Elston. This was a mystery from the very beginning. You don't really know what's going on and what's happening with the main character. You just know that there's definitely something she's hiding. There's definitely something strange. She's definitely lying to her partner. You're just not really sure what it is that is her backstory or why she's lying about stuff. So eventually we do learn who she is and about her past and what led her to this moment, and it leads to an even greater mystery. And ultimately her trying to kind of get out from underneath her past. She's incredibly smart. She's learned to be several steps ahead of the next, and her next moves are backups to backups to backups. But you still don't know if it's enough to get her out from underneath what her current um, struggle is of her past catching up to her. So you don't even really know until the very end if she's going to be successful in what her plans are and what she's doing. You don't even know what her plans are. You just know she's putting something together. So it was good for suspense and not really being able to predict what the ending is. So I thought that was a good book. And basically, first lie wins. Everything is a mystery and everybody's lying. So what is the real truth? The next one I read is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. This appears as if it's going to be the first in a series, and it's fantasy based about a world where magical powers exist, and a prophecy has claimed that someone with a particular power will ultimately be the key to ruling everyone or being king or having power over everyone. But basically, it's a search for whoever this person is that has that power. So the main character, her name is Freya. She's been hiding that she has these abilities her whole life, and it ends up being discovered that she has what is that power in that prophecy. It's discovered by a ruler who's been searching for her since that prophecy for many, many years. Um, and he ultimately wants to control her so that because he thinks, as part of the prophecy, if he does, that he'll become king. So all throughout the book, it's all about everyone who uses her to try and achieve their own goals, or on the opposite end, everyone that wants to kill her so that other people can't control her and become all powerful. Everybody knows the prophecy, so it's either you're using her or you're trying to kill her. That's the whole story. And her turmoil over all the death and destruction and chaos that it causes over just her being her and the fact that she has this power. So there is an interesting twist at the end that really sets it up for it being a longer series. So I'm curious where the direction that twist at the end is going to take it. But I will probably read as the next ones get released. I don't think they are yet, but it was a good read for a fantasy series. Not quite as good as like Aquatar um, or the Sarah J. Maas that I've read so far, but good for a fantasy read if that's your thing. The next book I read was The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. This is actually a really fascinating story about June Farrow, who historically in her family, the women have gone crazy. They've lost their minds, and it's eventually led to, their demise and their their thinking capabilities. So it happened for many generations, and she feels she's in her, I think she's like 35, and she's starting to feel it happen with her as well. That she's like hallucinating about certain things. She's not entirely sure what's going on, but it's the same pattern that they said historically her mother went through, and she's also witnessed her grandmother going through. Her grandmother ends up passing away very early in the book, and she mails her something that opens up this door of kind of mystery and researching her past and why her mother left her when she was just a baby. And what ultimately was interesting about this is as she's researching this, she's finding this evidence of the history of her family, and you're not really sure. And it seems to have some overlap of like her mom in different time periods, and you're not really sure if it's like evidence of time travel, if it's some sort of strange mystery or somebody making something up, or is it really just that she's losing her mind and hallucinating these things? So it really was like, what the heck is going on? I really don't know. And I'm always really, really, really skeptical of anything time travel related because my mind just works that way. Like, oh, this doesn't make sense with the butterfly effect. Like, this would change this and this. So it can't be time travel because it wouldn't be this. So I way overthink everything, like usual. But it still kept my interest, even if it was going to be a time travel thing, because it started to kind of go, okay, that would make sense, which is hard to do with me. So I was really impressed with how they brought it together, um, and what the ultimate truth was in the end. Or so I think. I mean, it ultimately could still be one way or the other. So that was a good read. I read it in like 2 days because it was so interesting. I really wanted to figure out what was going on. The next one I read was The Beginning of Forever by Catherine Bybee. This was the third book in the series of the D'Angelo siblings, which I'd read the other two books in the past couple months. This is the story about the younger brother Gio in the D'Angelo family, and he meets Emma. In their love story of getting together again, it's a romance that seems to be Catherine Bybee's kind of style of writing. That the catalyst or the climax of the story is not them, the main couple that's starting to love each other, actually hurting each other, or breaking up or anything, which is so uncommon for romances. The catalyst is actually Emma's relationship with her family, and then her health struggles as well as she gets diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder. So it's really about, Gio is actually supporting her through this and being a rock for her, and they're communicating with each other, and really it's just those outside forces of her family and her illness that are creating these issues for herself and how they overcome this. So again, refreshing to have a romance that's not about trauma with each other. What I did find though is this is the third book in the series of this family, and I kind of found that um, all of the men, all of the Italian men specifically, in the three books in this series were, other than their career goals, were very, very similar as far as their characters. There really wasn't anything um, significantly different about all three of the male characters, other than more external factors. Like one in the first one, he had a kid or had been married before. In the second one, he lived in Italy. It wasn't really personality wise, they're very similar. So it's kind of getting a little stale. There is one more book in the series. The fourth book is actually about Emma's brother, who is not one of the Italian brothers. So I'm wondering if maybe there's a little more variety to his character. I wouldn't say there's not depth to the characters because I do think they were there. It was just personality wise, they weren't significantly different. So we'll see. I'm still probably going to read the fourth one because I do like all these other characters and seeing how their stories progress, even if they're kind of minor characters in the next book. So we'll see. The last one I read is We All Want Impossible Things by Catherine Newman. This is about two women who are best friends for more than 40 years. I think they meet in preschool, and one has a terminal illness, and her best friend is there to support her through hospice. It's incredibly well written and sometimes even poetic in some of the euphemisms and dialogue, and sometimes reminiscing um, about their past, and I really appreciated that they kept their humor as they deal with this, and they kept their relationships with each other and their families, still trying to survive through this tragedy ultimately. So I did absolutely love several of the characters and their quips and their super funny and sarcastic dialogue. I really appreciated that there are relationships in the book that remind me a lot of relationships that I have in my life. There's, of course, lots of tears because it is a sad story, uh, especially given that it reminded me of seeing someone in my life go through the hospice process and being able to really vividly picture all the different phases that she was describing her friend going through in this book. Um, yes, it's sad, but ultimately, I think it was really heartwarming with all of the love and support and relationship building that made it more uplifting and tragic. Just really impressed with how well written it was and how funny, above and beyond tragedy it was. So, really recommend this one as well. And that's actually it for all of my May reads. I am so glad you joined me and happy if you stayed with me. If you have any book recommendations, I'm always open to suggestions. I appreciate it if you stuck around, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.